Chairs Michael Beal and Robert Swadling. Welcome, gentlemen, and I see Mrs. Billings in attendance also down there.
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council, support staff. Thanks very much. It's an absolute pleasure to be with you this evening. I want to take one moment and introduce to you the squadron, if you will, the Essex Memorial Spitfire Committee, and I quite frankly like to use that word, squadron. Behind me, we have the parent organization, the Southern Ontario Military Muster, Jeff Bottoms and Gunilla. There you are. Mike Kohutch, Eric Billing, Suzanne Allison, Monica Totten. Am I missing anyone? And my friend, Bob Swadling.
And Karen Billing.
And Karen Billing. My God, thank you very much, Bob, for keeping me on the straight and narrow here. These people are our credibility. And I should again qualify our story by saying that, you've heard a great deal about a Spitfire. There is far more to this Spitfire. Our focus here is to honor veterans. It's our sole purpose. The Spitfire is the tool to do that. And I just remembered that I'm missing my friend Joe Gibson. Where are you, Joseph?
Right over there.
He's working, that's what it was. He was over there photographing us. So, if we may, can we get into it? Where am I at here? There it is, where it says Michael Beal. Okay. The focus, of course, the object that we're putting in location here is a Spitfire. And it is a Spitfire that, by paint scheme, it will duplicate the aircraft that the man that we choose to honor with this paint scheme, Jerry Billing, Essex person, and an ace, an absolute ace, a man who flew that Spitfire. As I mentioned, we are a subgroup of the Southern Ontario Military Muster, and we are affiliated with the Ontario Historical Society, and it's a pleasure to be with them. They are our charitable umbrella, and we're taking full advantage of that. Our mission, our goal, to erect and dedicate a replica Spitfire monument. It is a monument, similar to the display at Jackson Park, to honor our Essex County Airmen. I was involved with a very fine group of people a few years ago that put I'll back up a little bit, that took the Lancaster bomber down and ensured that under stewardship it is being restored, and we as a group purchased a Spitfire and Hurricane and put them in position in Windsor. So we have some experience with the process. And this is the important part for me, the plaque listing the names that will be placed at the base of the aircraft. We will honor those men and women who built, flew, and died in those aircraft, and that's our goal. As I mentioned, the Spitfire will be painted in D-Day colors. This is kind of interesting. Spitfires are certainly a wonderful, beautiful airplane to look at, but what makes this particular replica, this monument, so unique is that Jerry Billing, our ace, flew his Spitfire on June 6, 1944 over the beaches. And as a result of that, his aircraft was painted with the typical D-Day black and white stripes. This is going to be a spectacular looking monument. There's no question about it. And it will indicate his call sign and the serial number on the aircraft. My apologies. I'm a mouse-oriented guy. There you go. How do you like my act so far? Cheryl, I can sure use your expertise right now. Here they come. God love you. Save me. Where are you? Up here. Can we do that? Great, thanks very much. Again, my apologies. I am a digital doomcoff, but I work at it every day nonetheless. By the way, just as we're waiting, we've got some exciting updates. This PowerPoint presentation is basically obsolete as of about 2 or 3 hours ago in a most delightful way. So we'll talk about where we're headed. There we go. Thank you very much. Again, our goal this evening is to see if we can leave the room tonight with a definitive location for our Spitfire, your Spitfire monument, your gift, our gift to the citizens of the town of Essex. This particular view, the plan view, is an exploded view of your Essex Silo District Plan project area. I want to thank Jeff Watson for helping me get this together. And we actually visited the site with Councillor Vokes, Jeff Watson, and Russ Phillips, and we indicated the location, and Jeff has kindly placed, not an X, but an RCIF roundel, precisely where we'd like to have the monument located. Now, again, within a few feet of that particular location. You know, we're not that tight on it, but it needs to be in this area. I'm afraid to touch this again. On town property. Yeah, we're avoiding anything that might not necessarily, at this moment in time, belong to the town of Essex. Thank you very much. Linda, you're just the best.
What you have down.
Right on.
Okay.
It's just in the arrow, right on. Why this location? What is it about that spot that is motivating us to have it in that particular location? The park setting is a quiet and a place of somber reflection. In that particular location, there are already remembrance plaques on the ground, in and around the sidewalk area. The site is readily accessible from the Legion building for remembrance ceremonies, so it makes it easy for people to visit and reflect on what that aircraft means. Additionally, the monument will serve as a tourism draw to this area and complement the proposed silo project and farmers market expansion that you have in mind. We will also, as a question of security, we will have the aircraft lit at night. We will fundraise for a solar panel and security lighting. We'll certainly work with Town of Essex Engineering and whatever we need to do to make that happen. And again, that's a donation from a person in the Netherlands who benefited from this guy, the folks who flew these aircraft. Thank you, Bob. This is again, I spoke of the configuration of the painting of the aircraft. The significant and prominent D-Day stripes on this aircraft will be a huge draw, a spectacular looking model. By the way, it's a full scale. This is not a percentage-sized aircraft. This is a full scale aircraft. Here's a picture of Jerry. We kind of like this one. If this guy was any better looking, I think one of us would date him. Jerry Billing is a World War II Spitfire pilot. Post-war, he flew Spitfire on behalf of Cliff Robertson, the actor. And of course, at air shows across Canada. I'm sure there's many people in this town who remember Jerry doing high-speed fly-pasts, and the sheer joy of watching that aircraft fly overhead. It was just a spectacular image for the town of Essex, that Spitfire. And he flew Spitfires for 56 years. And according to my co-chair, Bob Swadling, that's a record. There's just nobody else in the world who flew Spitfires that long. Incredible, absolutely incredible. Here's a picture of my friend Bob and Jerry Billing, best mates. Jerry is now in assisted living. I think it's just outside, behind IODE. Bob, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to speak to it at all?
Yeah, Randy, you were up there, right?
Randy visited.
And thanks for going up and seeing him.
But you can see at the bottom, time is not on our side. Simple as that. These World War II veterans, we all know the statistics, you hear them often. We're losing them on a daily basis dramatically, and we need to move on it as fast as we can. And that's our motivation, both in fundraising, acquiring the Spitfire and getting it in location, up and dedicated. We want Jerry at that ceremony, and we will do whatever it takes to get him there. Simple as that. Our request this evening, basically, it's on the simplest form. It's to confirm the particular location so that we can begin our fundraising. One of the prerequisites of one of the organizations we're talking to right now is that, I'm sorry, we can't speak to you unless we know precisely where you're going to put the monument. And so we need to get that organized so that we can launch or at least address that particular concern. And with your permission, we'd like to use the Town of Essex logo on our letterhead. Again, with your permission, please. But that's not one of our major prerequisites here. It's the location. This is, again, this news flash is now obsolete as of about an hour and a half ago, but it is quite interesting. As a result of a sizable donation, the Essex Memorial Spitfire has been ordered. We contacted our supplier, the same fellow that we used in England for the Windsor Spitfire and Hurricane, and he has been turned loose. He's ready to go. He is actually creating our Spitfire as we speak. So we're very excited about that. That was a woohoo moment in the committee chamber, and we did celebrate it that evening, as I recall. Yeah, it's a bit. The whole celebration is a bit vague, but I think we did. Our fundraising program is launched as of tonight. But I'm going to add a point to this that's not on there, Cheryl, and I do apologize for going off topic here. But as of an hour and a half ago, I'll back up. The lead time for the availability of that Spitfire is between 12 and 16 weeks. That's a long time. We don't have that kind of time. We need to move that ahead. I contacted our fellow in England and chatted him about that issue, and he contacted 2 companies that have the requests for Spitfires that are in his production line, if you will. And the company that is about to receive a Spitfire said, please, give it to the folks in Essex. Our lead time right now is 4 weeks. Go ahead, Bob.
Okay, that does, oh, wait a minute, talk. Hello, that does leave Mike and everyone a little bit speechless. And it's quite an honor for someone in England to do that for us, for Essex, for our committee. And we greatly appreciate it. And there's more to it, though, isn't there, Mike?
Yes. Are you ready?
Yeah, you're ready.
Thank you very much for allowing me to catch myself here. The issue, one of the cost issues with our Spitfire is the paint scheme. It's complicated and costly, and we were kind of worried about exactly how we were going to go about doing that. It's part of our planning. Well, the same organization volunteered to paint the aircraft for us free. So if you take a look at the budget numbers that we gave you, we estimated the paint job to cost roughly $30,000. It's a gift. So the Spitfire will arrive fully painted 4 weeks from leaving his shop, and I estimated just off the top of my head in the last 15, 20 minutes, roughly 4 weeks delivery. If it leaves Southampton, 4 weeks on the ocean to be delivered to Toronto. Our responsibility will be to go get that aircraft and bring it home to Essex, fully painted, ready to go. Extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary. That's another woohoo moment, by the way, right on thing. Yeah. So we're a burgeoning success. That's the best way to describe it. What we're looking for now, if I can maybe go to the next slide. There we go. What we're looking for now is that fundraising moment. And this is where we're looking for leads, contacts, anybody in the Essex area, companies, individuals, anybody who would like to help us. This is how you make out the check. Southern Ontario Military Muster, or SOM, keeping it real simple. And on the memo, write Spitfire, and we're good to go.
Should we mention the one from Ottawa?
Yes, I should. Thanks very much, Bob. I'm going to back up a little bit. One of the things that allowed us to make this commitment to have the Spitfire as a go was another major donation from a donor in Ottawa. So it's on the order of $25,000. So we just called England immediately and said, we have this money, please go. So it all fell into place as a result of the goodness of Canadians and the goodness of those people in England.
The $25,000 covers half the cost of the Spitfire. So we have to raise the other half in some...
As a challenge.
We take it as a challenge.
Exactly. Of the folks from Essex. If we can raise that $25,000, ladies and gentlemen, we're good to go. The only thing left in the budget is the foundation, the plinth, the pole, if you will, and the dedication ceremony. And we expect that to be a worldwide party. We're already talking about aircraft overhead, passing in sequence, coverage from around the world. We want to make sure that this is absolutely grand. A wonderful way to celebrate, Jerry. And veterans. Over to you, sir.
Okay, Councillor Baker, Councillor Oakes.
Yeah, Mike, this is very exciting. It really is. And you know what? it does never cease to amaze me. I mean, we go back a few years, back in my days at the Windsor Airport, and when you get on a project, you're like a dog with a bone. And obviously, this is another example of how well you do. This is very exciting, and by all means, I can't see us not being, this is great for the community because Mr. Billings, obviously with some of my background in the aviation and knowing that, is quite a star. It's quite a star for us to recognize. So I have a couple questions to administration, just generally, if I can, first of all, and then I want to come back. So through your worship to, I guess maybe, I'm not sure who's lead on the project. Would it be you, Doug? Doug. So, go ahead. Yes?
Through your worship, it's just depending what question you're asking.
Fair enough. So I guess everybody's going to be involved in this project. So are we pretty well pinpointed to the location that would be preferable? Because we do have the silo section area that's been kind of high level in terms of a design area, but do we have an area pinpointed that we really think would work?
Through your worship, I know last Monday our CEO did attend a meeting with the committee, and they did look at site, so I can defer to Russ on that.
Mr. Phillips, sure.
Thank you. Through you, your worship, as Doug indicated, we did meet with the committee members the other evening, took a walk down there with Councillor Vokes, and cited along the pathway a location which, while it was not in the original silo district plan, we feel that it would not encumber or distract anything, and in fact, the sight lines back towards the Legion and back towards the area, as Mike has indicated, they're looking for a place that's somber, contemplative, where somebody can sit down and look at the aircraft without the busyness of the traffic right behind them. And so those were some of the concerns earlier through administration, is that if it was sited too near the Talbot and too near the entrance to the longer term project, it may in fact be a bit of an encumbrance or a hurdle for us. But I'm quite satisfied, and I can defer to Jeff Watson as well, who's been very closely associated with the silo district plan. But I feel that administration supports that. We've brought forward a report that's fairly neutral in terms of a recommendation. It's a matter of whether or not council feels that this is an appropriate venture to be participating in.
Thank you. So I personally believe it is an appropriate venture, and I'll leave it up to administration if we should move forward on this to select a location. And thank you for your committee for the work you do. And I'll start off with the campaign kickoff and donate my company $200 tonight, okay?
Where do you go, Phil?
Thank you very much.
Councillor Vokes?
Thank you, Your Worship. I hope people, I don't want to say miss the importance of this. I had the opportunity to, as Mr. Swalling had indicated, to go visit Jerry in the long-term care facility. And when I walked into Jerry's room, he was a man alone in there. He was a man who, like many times, stood alone. Jerry stood alone when he was shot down over Germany. Jerry laid in the mud for a month, hiding from the Germans in order to save his life. 1 month. As the story is written, he laid in the mud. He ate grass in order to survive, only upon another time rising back into the air, where the bullets had riddled coming through the cab of his plane, the bullets had riddled the glove off his hand. And then it went on to, the bullets took the goggles off his face. He reached up to grab his goggles and they were gone, and he felt the concussion of the bullet, but wasn't sure what it was. Only to plummet 17,000 feet into the sea and can't swim a stroke. And then floated in a dinghy, only waiting to be picked up, where he was taken inland and the fights continued. So when I walked into the room and seen Jerry alone there, I thought to myself, this is pretty well status quo for Jerry. But what I noticed about Jerry was Jerry is very, very fragile. Jerry is communicative. You want to see Jerry light up. His opportunities to have dialogue are not there. But his opportunities to know is. And the reason I say that is because when I mentioned Spitfire to Mr. Billing, his eyes opened up wide. He perked up. He knew what I was obviously talking to. So with that being said, the fact is that I will be putting a motion here tonight, obviously, to support the fact that we wrecked that particular plane in the Heritage Center. My motion will obviously talk to the use of the town logo moving forward. But there was some conversation that we had about development of the silo project and the positioning of the plane. The plane won't be hard to move if we have to move it. It's simply, if you look at the diagram, you look at the weight, you look at the size of it, if the silo development area is suggested that there's a better area for this particular plane, which I would all be for, but the truth is where it will be erected today is very, very satisfying. But if moving forward, it's not a large undertaking to do that. So I too, and I have it here, and it's not about upping anybody. I want to talk to administration, I want to talk to council about how much monies we have in our council fund, that is our council money to work with, to contribute to this particular fundraising tonight. And like Mr. Baker, I'm going to commit tonight, actually the truth is I'm going to commit $500 tonight to the Jerry Billing Fund.
Thank you.
So with that being said, how much monies do we have in our council fund, Donna? Because if there's opportunity there, I'm going to lobby council to contribute also out of our council fund. This plane's got to go up, and the reason I'm pushing it, and I'm going to push it, and if people don't like the fact I'm pushing, I'm used to people not liking what I do sometimes. But with that being said, is time is of the essence here. And I think as people, as a community, if there's any opportunity that we can get Mr. Billing out there with his lovely wife Karen and see that plane unveiled, it will be the closure for Jerry, and he can go in peace. And I think, and so when we look at that time, I'm going to push council and I'm going to push the committee to move and keep moving until it's up. Because if you had the chance to see Jerry in that room, you really understand how time is of the essence. And I think that's why Mr. Beal may have got a little emotional tonight, because I'm fighting it right now. I'm fighting it. It's not going to happen to me. I'm fighting it. But I understand your emotion there, Mr. Beal, because if you've seen Jerry there, and when you walk in the room and you sense that history, you'd have a different understanding of that emotion. So how much monies would we have, Donna, in that?
In your council contingency budget, you have $5,000.
So out of that $5,000, then I will put a motion that council endorses a $1,000 contribution out of that fund towards the fundraiser for the Jerry Billing plane being erected. I'm looking for a seconder.
We have a motion? I'll support it. Supported by Councillor Bundy. Any questions to the motion? Councillor Baker.
So you're suggesting $8,000 of the contribution? Was that the amount? How much was it? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I thought I heard 8,000. No,
8,000. 8,000.
No, I didn't know. I didn't hear the number.
Changed my mind. It's 8,000.
No,
That's on camera.
Can't happen. Sorry, I knew the math. Took my shoes off for that one.
We only
Okay,
got
thanks.
5 in there. Yes, 1,000, council, please.
Anything further? All in favor of the motion? Motion carries.
So
Okay.
when the
back on
time is
track.
right, I'll make a motion.
Beg pardon?
I say when the time is right, I will make a motion.
Oh, another one. Okay. Councillor Bowman and then Deputy Mayor Malash.
Just a couple comments. I was very proud when we first put the Spitfire mural up, and I was devastated again when it came down a few years later. And it was a loss to our community, and we still have a few prints around, but it sort of was something we lost, and it looked like it was gone forever. This group's come forward, and it's revitalized, and as a matter of fact, it's even better because it's something you can, it's three-dimensional now, and something that we can be proud of again. I'm looking at the design and the work that'll go into this, and I'm sort of looking, I'm sure there's some in-kind stuff that the municipality can be putting into this project since it's going to be on town property. I wouldn't begin to suggest what it should be, and I would certainly leave that up to the administration to decide in what areas we can contribute. And I mean, there's some areas we probably can't afford to contribute because of our workforce, but I would think that would be another opportunity to help with some of the costing as well.
Thank you, Marley. Deputy Mayor Malash.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilor Bowman just made the suggestion I was going to make. Thank you.
Thank you. Back to you, Councilor Vokes, for a motion.
Thank you, Worship. I'm going to put a motion forward that council support the Essex Memorial Center Heritage Committee on the positioning of the plane in the Heritage Garden, and that the Essex Spitfire Memorial Committee can use the Town of Essex logo on their committee letterheads. So the motion simply is to put it in the Heritage Garden and to use the company letter, or the corporate letterheads.
Moved by Councilor Vokes, seconded by Councilor Baker. Any questions to the motion? Councilor Bowman.
Are there any issues with using the letterhead? The logo?
Done,
I
Honor?
know we run into those problems sometimes, but
As long as it's cleared through our manager of communications, Lori Brett, there should be no problems at all.
super.
Thank you very much. Anything further?
If I could,
Councilor Vokes.
I want to make sure my motion talks to Councilors Bowman. Do we need that in there, Council? Do we need an in-kind consideration put in that motion so we get, one, we get the agreement of the erection and the heritage, two, we get the agreement of the company logo being used, and three, we get the consideration of wherever we can help?
I would think you'd want to leave the consideration of
Okay,
in-kind out so it can be worked.
very well then.
Anything further to the motion? All in favor of the motion? 100%? Thank you very much. So, you received the report. Was in there? Okay. Okay. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Keep up the good work. We got a couple more fundraisers we're going to need in the future, and I know where to come to. Thank you.
Mr. Beal, if I could, I need to talk, Mr. Beal, I need to talk to you about getting that plane here, because I may have a way. Okay?
Administration. Number 8, reports from administration. Building Department report number 2014-05, May 2014. Building report.
Move receipt.
Moved by Councilor Vokes, supported by Deputy Mayor Malash. Any questions? All in favor of that motion? Motion carries. B, Corporate Services Department report number 2014-16, temporary appointment for Deputy Treasurer. Moved by Deputy Mayor Malash, supported by Councilor Baker. Any questions? All in favor of the motion? Motion carries. C, Infrastructure and Development Department, report number 2014-13, results of request for tender for 4x4 tractor backhoe.
Support recommendation.
Councilor Bonnie, Councilor Vokes. Any questions? All in favor of the motion? Motion carries. D, Planning Department report number 2014-22, proposed C. Watson Town Trail projects for 2015, Ward 4 and 5, Heron Culture Centers, Town of Essex. Councilor Vokes moves, supported by Councilor Baker. Any questions? Councilor Baker.
Your Worship, I would mind if we could have Jeff kind of explain the options for us, because it's quite complicated and it's important for everybody to see what we're doing down there. If you would, for us, at least a brief overview and what we've decided.
Mr. Watson.
Speaker.
You're through, Mr. Mayor. If I can have access to the appendices at the back of the report? The long report? Okay. The report breaks it down into what council has accomplished already or will soon accomplish, and then what can be done for 2015. Basically, Appendix A and Appendix B are two projects which will be hopefully completed this year. One is a greenway connection from Sinisac to the Chrysler Greenway, and that is basically part of this whole Dunn Road, Erie Street, County Road 13 connection. And by undertaking these projects, we'll have the one and only north-south corridor, Seawatts corridor, from Windsor to Colchester and Lake Erie in the county. And so it's a very significant trail, and this is an important connection. On Appendix B, you can see the Harrow High School Trail, which is also supposed to be constructed this year when school is out. And you can see it goes from Kale to Walnut. And it's also a significant connection because it joins with that north-south corridor that I just mentioned. And so it provides local residents access to the downtown without having to go down a busier street like Erie Street. As far as the options for 2015, by June 30th, we have to advise the county as to which options are our preference or option. And we basically are seeking CWATS funding, which is a 60% cost to us and a 40% cost to the county. The option one is basically a continuation of our westward expansion of the bike lanes or the paved shoulders through the built-up area west of Colchester, and ultimately we hope to go all the way to the meadows, to the town boundary. And so this first option is basically 1.2 kilometer paved shoulders, 1.2 meter wide paved shoulders, going from Walnut Lane, which is where the paved shoulders end this year. They're not done yet, but where they will end this year, and takes it right to Martin Lane, which is the last of the built-up areas immediately west of Colchester. That is an expensive proposition. As I show you, the estimate cost is about $450,000, of which $270,000 would be the town's contribution to that. And the reason for that, of course, is that as you go west outside of Colchester, you get into areas where there are small valleys, the drainage is complex, the shoulders are very, very steeply falling off, and so the cost of reconstructing the boulevard on both sides of the road is very expensive. On Appendix D, option number 2, basically proposes going in two directions: west of Colchester for 680 meters, and that would take you to McLean Boulevard in the Westchester Beach area, and east from Island View, which is where they'll be finished this year, to McCormick Beach, the Viewpoint Estates winery, and basically get into the tourist country. So it's a compromise. Option A is basically intended primarily to serve the residents of the area and to take in the more densely built-up areas west of Colchester. Option B is kind of a compromise. It looks at helping the local residents, but it also looks at promoting the tourist side of things by moving east and west. Option 3 is not a CWATS funded option. It's a local road, which means the town is entirely responsible for it. And this relates to the Dunn Road construction, because Dunn Road now, by the end of this year, will have paved shoulders from Colchester to where Erie Street starts or County Road 13 ends, which is the drain just north of Kale. So you'll see paved shoulders on both sides of the street. Once you get to the drain, it's in the local road configuration, and it's entirely our responsibility. We are of the opinion it's very important to complete that connection, because it basically takes you through Harrow with a multi-use trail north of where County Road 13 ends, right to King Street. So basically, you're taking in the more densely populated urban community, and you're basically providing an access from Harrow all the way down to Colchester in a much safer route as far as cycling and pedestrian activity is concerned. North of that, you'll see a broken red line. Well, that's for the future, where essentially we'll be erecting share the road signage, and that goes to that link that I just mentioned from Sinisac to the Greenway. So that helps to complete that Windsor to Colchester connection. At the same time, it provides good access between Colchester and Harrow, and because obviously they have a need to go in both directions, and so you're accommodating local needs, and you're also accommodating the regional tourism needs. So option 3 is like option 2. It's designed to sort of accommodate the diverse interests that are quite apparent as far as needs are concerned out there. Our recommendations for option 1, primarily because it's one of the more complex ones, and at least get the complex ones out of the way. And number two, it helps to address the safety concerns that were expressed at the last council meeting as far as the access of local residents to a safer alternate transportation system.
Questions? Councilor Baker and Deputy Mayor Malash.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you to Jeff. This is just some general comments. I'm very happy to see that you have made this recommendation to extend and accelerate the development through the built-up area. I mean, I know recently what's happened, and we looked at hopefully making some commitment to move faster on this. The other thing is I just want to point out that regardless of whether or not this is through built-up areas or whether it's the effect of the tourism, it's all about safety. Because what we're experiencing now is hopefully a growth in awareness with active living and people using their cycles and being able to get out there and enjoy this area. But we also are driving in more tourists, and when we drive in more tourist base, it increases the need for safety because we see it every day. Not even to mention the fact that we have a large population of our guest workers who come into the area and use that. So I'm glad to see we're moving forward. I note in your report, we talked about, under option 1, which we are hopefully approving tonight, moving forward even faster on going westerly up to Crystal Beach. We're suggesting 2016, 2017. And hopefully that we can look at this in council's next budget this year. And I know if we can, I know this is a sensitive topic, but maybe we can look at some monies in the gas tax fund a little bit to see if we can accelerate this, because it is all about safety and the increased traffic we're getting. What I do note, though, is that in your report you talk about a little more difficult area because we're going through some areas that are going to require species at risk area, etc., and that takes a long time. I would hope that species at risk don't take any longer than loss of life. So I would hope that we could move that forward and have them accelerate these reports that are required, because species, while they're important, human life is very important, and I want to make sure that's on top on our priority list. So for that reason, I hope we can find some way to accelerate next year when we talk about budget, whoever's here, I should say, because it's really important. And moving easterly is also as important because of tourism, but we have to bite off what we can take right now. So this is a good selection, so thanks for that.
Deputy Mayor Malash.
Thank you, through your worship. And I was going to kind of mention the same thing. I think it's great that we're trying to push for this more expensive piece to be done for next year. But again, it's going to be the decision of the next council to determine whether or not this is the piece that we're going to move forward. I think right now, because we have to choose a section and put forward a budget with the county proposal, that we should go for the more expensive. And then if at some point in time that next year that for whatever reason, less grants, maybe they bring the OMPF down to 0 next year and we can't afford to do anything, but at least we've put it in the budget so that the county is putting us on the map that we want to try and get something done. And then we'll let next council try and determine what they can afford to do. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilor Baker?
Just for clarity, tonight if we should accept this option 1, we are now in time for application for next year. Is that correct? Because we have to do this by the end of the month?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, that's correct. If you accept option 1, then we will make application to the county for approval of that section, that next section. And it has to be decided by the CWAT's Technical Steering Committee, which is basically mandated to look at various proposals and consider which ones are merited for next year. But I think from a safety point of view and our past commitment to do what we've done already, we have a good track record and we know that we can do it. So I don't see funding as a problem.
Thank you. Is there anything else? Motion receive, approve and receive the report. Councilor Baker, supported by Councilor Bondi. Oh, there is one on the floor. Oh, okay. We've already got a motion on the floor, they said. So. Deputy Mayor Malash.
Thank you. Can you repeat the motion, please? What's the motion we're voting on?
Through your worship, moved by Councillor Vogt, seconded by Councillor Baker, that Planning Department Report number 2014-22, prepared by Jeff Watson, Policy Planner, and submitted by Chris Nepsey, Director of Infrastructure and Development, dated June 16, 2014, presenting to Council 3 countywide transportation system project options for a CWATS partnership project in 2015 be received, that option number 1 be adopted, and that Council concurs with the recommendations contained in the report that the CWATS Technical Review Committee be advised that the town of Essex wishes to amend CWATS Schedule C2 Essex by changing segment Essex ESS-20 from 1.2 meter paved shoulders to a 3 meter wide multi-use trail on the east side of Erie Street from the drain north of Cale Street to King Street, and the 1 to 5 year project schedule for phase south of King Street, and by adding a new segment ESS-24 related to the erection of share of the road signage on Erie and Sinisac Streets north of King Street in the short term, and the future construction of a 3 meter wide multi-use trail in this segment in the long term, or at such time as road reconstruction takes place.
Question, Councilor Baker.
Thank you, I'm glad you read that because it did raise a question for myself in terms of the Erie Street East Side extension going from 1.2 to 3 meters. That'll be along in front of, beside of the funeral home up in, how far does that take from the current sidewalk and move it closer to, or how did?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, basically, the paved shoulders on either side of County Road 13 ends, as they say, at the drain north of Cale. When you get to that point, there's an urban cross-section, so it's fully curved. It's full municipal urban road. And the way it's designed is it's not possible to really put paved shoulders on either side because of the very steep slopes, especially on the west side. So the idea is to switch to a multi-use trail. And the county is actually accommodating us in part of their construction with a wider trail on that side. And the multi-use trail would be located close to the curb. So essentially the sidewalks that are already there will be eliminated, and the multi-use trail would take its place. The residents actually get more driveway that way because they've eliminated the sidewalks, so the issues of overlapping the public right-of-way are lessened. And that trail would continue all the way up to King Street then, and in the future, if any road construction takes place on Erie north of King, that would become the same multi-use trail extension to the Greenway connection.
So then that piece there, that cut in front of the funeral home or beside the funeral home, will it affect, it'll have a road, or sorry, a curb cut now that isn't there that is requiring. What about the activity, because that is a quite heavily used piece of the area there, pull in and out for services?
Yes, that's all accommodated for. As I say, we will be pushing the actual paved area further from their activity areas. So, like the residents, they will benefit from that as well.
Ready for the question? All in favor of the motion? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Where are we at now? E, Planning Department Report Number 2014-24, Essex Center and Harrison and Community Improvement Plan Wards 1 and 4.
Move the recommendation.
Okay, to read as follows. Thank you, sir. Supported by Councilor Bondi. Any questions? Councilor Bondi?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, to planning. Does this mean that we will have an architect on retainer now?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no. A lot of our grant programs have basically been tested in the field. This is one that's never been tested because no one's ever applied for it. So we've never had any exposure to making it work. But we have had feedback from business owners, and one of the big confusions was, what is the point of having an architect on retainer if there are divergent needs, and as well there are different specialties required. For example, a landscape architect is not in this package. So we looked at that, and what we decided was, rather than call it the Architectural Design Service Grant Program, it's now the Professional Design Services Grant Program. That allows landscape architects or in-house contractors and that sort of thing to basically get rebate on the costs that business owners incur. But the way the onus is now is that it works like any other grant program. They go to their architect. That is part of the package in their application, and we in turn grant them monies back. Under the old program, we had a retained, as you say, architect who would be giving advice. But that was predicated on the assumption that there might be a sort of a common theme to streetscape design and that sort of thing. And in our discussions with the BIA, for example, the Essex Centre BIA, it was decided that it's too early for that we want to get activity stimulated, get businesses going, and see how it goes. So this simply works up front, and it works better than what that program had.
Anything further? Councillor Baker.
Yeah, just a comment. I think this recommendation here is good because it allows us, if one of the proponents to use their own, it's still a dollar limit, but now they won't get backed up. If we have one on retainer, can you imagine how much they'd be backed up in terms of doing the work? This allows them to divide and conquer and be able to get this quicker. So I'm really happy you brought this forward and even added into the landscaping, so it's a good plan. Thanks.
Ready for the question? All in favor? Motion carries. F, Planning Department Report number 2014-23, Arrow Community Improvement Plan, application for grants.
Move the recommendation.
Councillor Baker, Councillor Bondi, any questions? All in favor of the motion? Motion carries. As many pages these reports. Wow. G, Planning Department Report number 2014-25, Development Charges Background Study and Bylaw Retention of Consultant. Moved by Councillor Vokes, supported by Councillor Baker. With questions? Councillor Baker.
So if I may, just very quickly, just so that we know and the public knows, this was not the lowest bid, or lowest, or I should say lowest proposal that was sent in, but can you explain how this differs from a tender and RFP so that we can clearly understand that?
Sure. Through your worship, an RFP process is different, like Councillor Baker noted, from a request for tenders or request for quotation. You have a proposal out, a request for proposal. So you're not just measuring cost and materials. It's not a specific technical specification. So what we have to do is review their tenders, review their scope, review their proposals. Sometimes they have a different attack or a different approach, different levels of experience, different comfort level with the town, previous experience and whatnot. So based on that, the senior management team reviewed that criteria and scored them on a ranking system. Definitely fee is one of those, but it's a percentage of that review. So there's fee, as I noted, experience, understanding the proposal, and a few other ones. So based on those rankings, the senior management team was unanimous in picking Watson. Sometimes a little bit more than others, but we definitely were all unified in that decision. So that's just a different approach from RFQs and RFTs.
And that's within budget, correct?
Correct.
Anything further? All in favor of the motion? Motion carries. Correspondence, Independent Electricity System Operators, 2013 Annual Report. Moved by Councillor Baker, supported by Councillor Vokes. Any questions? All in favor of the motion? Motion carries. Committee meeting minutes, Personnel Committee of June 2nd, 2014. Motion by Councillor Vokes, supported by Deputy Mayor Malash. And you move the recommendation also, Councillor Vokes, and the rest? Okay, thank you very much. B, Communities in Bloom Committee, March 25th. Deputy Mayor Malash, supported by Councillor Bowman. Any questions? All in favor of the motion? Motion carries. Bylaws, bylaw number 1328, being a bylaw to establish a schedule of fees for planning-related matters for the corporation of the town of Essex. Councillor Baker moves, supported by Councillor Vokes. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries. Bylaw number 1329, being a bylaw to designate the Tot Park located on Irwin Avenue together with the buffer zone between the municipal offices and Tot Park and the town of Essex as smoke-free. Councillor Bondi, supported by Councillor Baker. Any questions? All in favor of the motion? Motion carries. Bylaw number 1330, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the June 16, 2014 regular meeting of Council Corporation of the town of Essex. Councillor Bowman and Councillor Baker. Any questions? All in favor of the motion? Motion carries. Financial, new business. Councilor Vokes, concerns with children crossing County Road 8 and the old CN rail crossing.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I would just like to take a moment to talk to council about the intersection, obviously, at County Road 8, Arthur Avenue, and Gosford Town Line. This is the same intersection that we went during the, when council was first elected, we all did the site visit. Well, a lot of the problems that are being experienced by that neighborhood aren't going away. And actually, they've gotten worse, because I'm under the understanding that some of the busing services that used to be afforded have been diminished now. So now we have a lot more students walking to home, and on top of it, our residential area from when we first did that site visit now has obviously, you know, it's a much broad spectrum now of homes in that particular area. And then when you go on Maidstone East, there's one side of the sidewalk that is on the would be the west side of the road, but on the east side of Maidstone Avenue, there's no sidewalk. So every child that if you will, that lives on the east side doesn't cross to walk on the sidewalk on the west side and then cross back to go home on the east side. I know that sounds confusing. You would have to see it to know what I'm talking about. But with all that being said, I'm just looking for opportunities collectively between us and the county to look at that intersection, because I don't want to have the discussions that we had in here a couple weeks ago about County Road 50 and a young person losing their life. And I know we've been pretty blessed so far at that particular spot, but if nothing else, we need to look at it. We need to just step back, and it doesn't have to be something that is costly to do. I don't know. I'm just, and you know, I hate the thing saying, well, let's get a report. That's a start, but I'm just looking for some opportunities to enhance that particular intersection, because there's trucks that come up County Road 8 that don't break stride until they hit the light at Main Street and Tim Hortons. So I'm open for some dialogue on it, some discussions. I don't want to prolong it, but if anybody's got any ideas, I'm more than welcome to hear them.
Our clerk, Cheryl Bondi, has a few comments, I think.
Thank you, Your Worship. When this was brought to council, I took the opportunity on Friday afternoon to speak to our crossing guard who works at that intersection 3 times a day. She has told me on an average basis she gets 6 to 11 children that cross there daily. I have witnessed her doing so, and she has confirmed that she crosses the children who wish to be crossed at both streets. She crosses them at Arthur, she stands there at the sidewalk and crosses them again at County Road 8 or Maidstone Avenue. Some children choose not to cross there and continue on the side that I get my directions mixed up. But anyway, she cannot force them to cross with her, but she does cross the children to cross both of those streets.
Thank you. Mr. Nepsey.
Through your worship, I know Councillor Vokes had noted that the sidewalk on what I call the north side of the road, so on the Tim Horton side of Maidstone, I guess from the tracks towards town, is actually being constructed tomorrow. That was part of the sidewalk tender that was put out this year, and as you know, going around town, you see the sidewalks being constructed in various points. So that chunk of sidewalk will be completed, at least on that north side of the road, to the tracks. So either side of the tracks will have sidewalks coming up to the tracks on the north side. The tracks is not our property, but we may look at, I'm dealing with CN Rail on another project as far as paving the shoulder in between there, at least to have something, you know, not gravel for them to walk to. And as Councillor Bondi noted, there is a crossing guard at the Wacky intersection, and she crosses them across both streets. Another thing, Book 15 which is pedestrian crossings. The Ontario Traffic Council book is has been refreshed and is out for comments, and I believe it's going to be out either later this week or next week. And it has some excellent guidelines for marking where crossing guards are present. So that's something that we can add to those sections of roads as far as delineate a controlled crossing there and add some signage so that motorists know that there is a crossing guard at that spot. So I'm just waiting for the book to come out to get better direction on that. So those are a few things we can do immediately, I guess, that are happening immediately. As far as intersection geometrics and designs, that's something that council would have to pursue further if they wish.
If I could, that's what I was looking for. Something, even coming out of here tonight, if there was something where we could highlight the area as a significant crossing area. And then, Chris, are you telling me that our budget talked to a sidewalk from Gosfield to Bryan?
No, through your worship. Through you, your worship. The sidewalk, if you're on Maidstone,
Yes.
and let's say you're at the intersection,
Yes.
and you're walking on the north side of the road towards Tim Horton.
Yes.
So going home from school, I guess the kids would be going in towards the Gallo subdivision. Right now, the sidewalk comes up just short of the tracks and stops. And then it picks up again at the Gallo subdivision.
Okay.
That link in between where our stormwater pond is, that will have sidewalk starting tomorrow. They're constructing it. So at least this sidewalk will be continued on the north side, minus the tracks. That will keep them on the side, and then the crossing guard can cross them at Maidstone and then cross them across Arthur.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you very much. Councilor Vokes.